The thing about winning $2.1 million at a tribal casino on a random Tuesday is that nobody believes you until you show them the receipt. And even then, they think you photoshopped it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name's Ethan. I'm 34, work in IT support for a medical billing company. And until 3 days ago, my biggest life accomplishment was debugging a network issue that had stumped our senior engineers for a week. My wife, Rachel? She's 32, works as a paralegal at a mid-sized law firm, and has spent the last 10 years reminding me, in increasingly creative ways, that I'm not living up to my potential. We met in college. She was pre-law, sharp as broken glass, ambitious in that scary way where you knew she'd either rule the world or burn it down trying. I was the guy who fixed her laptop when it crashed 2 days before finals. She called me her tech guy back then. It sounded cute, like a pet name. Now it just sounds like a job description. 10 years of marriage, no kids, one mortgage on a townhouse we can barely afford, 2 car payments, and a relationship that had slowly, quietly turned into a business arrangement where I was the junior partner nobody consulted. But hey, at least we had our routines. Every other Friday, I'd drive 40 minutes to the Silver Feather Casino. Not to gamble big, just to play a few hands of blackjack, drink watered-down rum and cokes, and pretend I had a life outside of password resets and her disappointed sighs. Rachel hated it. Called it throwing money away. Never mind that she dropped $300 a month on SoulCycle and overpriced salads from that place where they weigh your lettuce like it's gold. At least I'm investing in my health, she'd say. Right? Because a kale Caesar was going to save her from the stress of working 60 hours a week for a boss who treated her like a glorified secretary. This particular Tuesday, I'd taken a half day, told my manager I had a dental appointment. Technically not a lie, I did have a cavity. I just scheduled the cleaning for next week and went to the casino instead. The place was dead. Typical for a weekday afternoon. Mostly retirees pumping quarters into slots, a few day drinkers at the bar, and me at a blackjack table with a dealer named Rita, who looked like she'd rather be literally anywhere else. I bought in for $200. My standard. Enough to feel like I was doing something, not enough to trigger a fight when Rachel checked our joint account. Rita dealt. I played. Won a few hands, lost a few more. Standard Tuesday. Then, around 4 p.m., something shifted. I don't believe in luck. Not really. But there's this zone you get into sometimes where the cards just start falling right, where you split 8s and pull 2 face cards, where the dealer busts on 16 3 times in a row. I was up $600 when Rita got called for her break. New dealer came in. Young guy, maybe 25, with a name tag that said Derek, and the kind of nervous energy that suggested this was maybe his 3rd week on the job. "How's your day going?" he asked, shuffling the deck with hands that weren't quite steady. "Better than expected," I said. "Lucky table today. The guy before you won 800. I raised an eyebrow. "Yeah?" Cashed out and went straight to the high-limit room. Derek gestured vaguely toward the roped-off area in the back. Said he was feeling it. Now, I'm not a high-limit guy, never have been. The high-limit room was for people with disposable income and questionable decision-making skills. $50 minimum bets. $100 chips. The kind of place where you could lose a month's salary in 20 minutes. But I was up 600, and I was still feeling it. "Deal me out," I said. "I'm going to take a walk." Derek nodded. I tipped him $20 and headed toward the high-limit room. The entrance had velvet ropes, actual velvet ropes, like this was some exclusive club, and not a carpeted room with slightly nicer chairs and free bottled water instead of fountain drinks. A pit boss stood at the entrance. Older guy, gray hair, suit that had seen better decades. "Afternoon," he said. "Minimum's 50 a hand in here." "I'm aware." He unclipped the rope. "Good luck." The room was quieter. Only 3 tables occupied. I chose the one farthest from the entrance, sat down, and put $500 on the table. The dealer was a woman in her 40s, professional, efficient, with the kind of neutral expression that suggested she'd seen everything twice. "Welcome, I'm Patricia. Betting limits are 50 to 5,000. I slid a $50 chip into the betting circle. She dealt. I won. Then I won again. And again. By 5 p.m., I was up $3,000. By 5:30, I was up $8,000. At 5:47, I had $23,000 in chips sitting in front of me, and Patricia's neutral expression had shifted into something that looked almost impressed. "You're on a hell of a run," she said quietly. "Feels like it. You thinking about cashing out?" I looked at the chips. $23,000. More money than I'd ever seen in one place. Enough to pay off our credit cards. Enough to finally fix the AC in the car Rachel had been complaining about for 6 months. Enough to prove for once that I wasn't just the tech guy who couldn't get his life together. "One more hand," I said. Patricia raised an eyebrow but didn't comment. She dealt. I had a king and a 7, 17. She showed a 6. I stayed. She flipped her card. A 10. 16 total. She had to hit. She pulled a card from the shoe, turned it face up. Queen of spades. 26. Bust. The pit boss who'd let me in earlier materialized beside the table. "Congratulations. That's a nice win." "Thanks. You mind if I get your ID? Standard procedure for wins over 10,000. Tax purposes." I handed him my driver's license. He walked away with it, disappeared through a door marked "Office." Patricia stacked my chips. "You're at 28,500. Quite a day." "Yeah." "You married?" she asked, glancing at my ring. 10 years. "She know you're here?" "Not exactly." Patricia smiled. Not judgmentally. Just knowingly. "Well, she's about to have a good evening." The pit boss returned with my license and a form. "Just need you to sign here for the IRS. You're taking this in cash or check?" "Check's fine." "Give us about 20 minutes to process it. You can wait at the bar if you'd like. First drink's on us." I thanked him, gathered my chips, and headed to the cashier cage. The cashier counted everything twice, printed a receipt, handed me a check. $28,500. I stared at it. At my name printed in that standard check font. At the number that represented more money than I'd saved in my entire life. And then I thought about Rachel, about how she'd react, about the conversation we'd had 2 weeks ago when I'd suggested maybe we could go on a vacation this year, and she'd said, "With what money, Ethan? You want to put it on the credit card we're already maxing out?" About how she'd called me dead weight last month during a fight. Just threw it out there like it was an observation, not an insult. "You know what you are? You're dead weight. I'm carrying us financially, emotionally, everything. You're just along for the ride." I'd gone quiet after that. Hadn't said anything. Just finished loading the dishwasher while she went upstairs to take a bath. Dead weight. The words had stuck. Burrowed in. Made a home in the part of my brain that kept track of every small failure, every disappointment, every moment I wasn't enough. But now I had a check for $28,000. And suddenly, I had an idea. A stupid idea. A petty idea. But an idea nonetheless. I drove home with the check folded in my wallet. Didn't call Rachel, didn't text, just drove, thinking. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I'd made a decision. I was going to test her. Not out of malice. Not exactly. But I needed to know something. I needed to know if the woman I'd married 10 years ago was still in there somewhere, or if all that was left was the person who saw me as dead weight. I needed to know if she'd help me if I needed her, if she'd stand by me when things got hard, or if she'd bail, like I suspected she would. So I was going to ask her for help with something. Something small. Something that would require her to inconvenience herself for me. And I'd see what happened. The check stayed in my wallet, and I walked into the house with a plan. Rachel was in the kitchen when I came in. Laptop open on the counter, still in her work clothes, glass of wine half empty beside her. She didn't look up. "You're late. Dentist took longer than expected." That was it. No, how was it? No, everything okay? Just a non-committal sound that suggested she'd already moved on to whatever email she was reading. I set my keys on the counter. "Hey, can I ask you something?" "Busy right now, Ethan." "It'll take 2 seconds." She sighed. The kind of sigh that communicated just how much of an interruption my existence was. What? My truck's making a weird noise. I think it might be the transmission. I was wondering if you could give me a ride to the mechanic tomorrow morning. They open at 7. She finally looked up. Tomorrow morning? I have a deposition at 9. I know. That's why I'm asking now. It's on your way. It's not on my way. It's 20 minutes in the opposite direction. Rachel, my truck might break down. I just need a ride to the mechanic so they can look at it. She stared at me. Not with sympathy. Not even with annoyance. With calculation. Like she was running the numbers in her head, weighing the cost-benefit analysis of doing me a favor. Can't you Uber? That'll be like $30. So, you have money. Not really. We're tight this month. We're always tight, Ethan. That's what happens when you work a dead-end job and spend your Fridays at a casino. There it was. The first jab. I kept my voice level. I'm not asking you to solve my life. I'm asking you to drive me 10 minutes out of your way. 20 minutes. You just said it was 20 minutes. Fine, 20 minutes. Can you help me or not? She picked up her wine glass. Took a sip. Set it down with just enough force to make a point. I don't have time for this, Ethan. Figure it out yourself. I stood there. Let the words land. Felt them settle in the same place where dead weight lived. Okay, I said quietly. Okay? Yeah, okay. I'll figure it out. She went back to her laptop. Conversation over. I walked upstairs to our bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, pulled out my wallet. The check was still there. $28,500. But that wasn't the end of the story. Because what Rachel didn't know, what I hadn't told anyone, was what had happened after I cashed that check. After I left the casino with my winnings, I didn't go home. I went back inside. And I played one more game. Not blackjack this time. Slots. The progressive jackpot machines in the back corner. The ones with the flashing lights and the digital counters showing prizes in the millions. I sat down at one, put in a $100 bill, and played. 10 spins. Nothing. 20 spins. Nothing. On the 37th spin, the machine started making sounds I'd never heard before. Bells, sirens, lights flashing in patterns that seemed designed to trigger seizures. The screen filled with symbols, all matching. And then the counter started ticking up. 1 million, 1.5 million, 1.8 million, 2 million, 2.1 million. The machine froze on that number, and a message appeared on the screen. Call attendant, jackpot win. Within seconds, people surrounded me. Casino staff, security, the pit boss from earlier, someone with a camera. Congratulations, the pit boss said, shaking my hand. You just won the progressive jackpot. I stared at the screen. $2.1 million. This is real? I managed. Very real. We'll need to verify the win, but yes, you just won $2.1 million. They took me to an office, had me sign forms, called someone from the gaming commission, took my picture with one of those giant novelty checks that looked fake but wasn't. The whole process took 2 hours. By the time they cut me an actual check, not cash, too much money for cash, it was almost 8 p.m. I walked out of that casino with 2 checks in my wallet. One for $28,500. One for $2.1 million. And my wife had just refused to give me a 20-minute ride. I sat on the bed, holding both checks, and made a second decision. I wasn't going to tell her. Not yet. First, I was going to see exactly who I'd married. The next morning, Rachel left for work at 6:45 a.m. without saying goodbye. I heard her heels on the stairs, heard the garage door open, heard her car pull out. The whole routine happened without her checking if I was awake, if I needed anything, or if I existed. Standard Tuesday. Well, Wednesday now. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the 2 checks in my wallet downstairs. $2.1 million plus the $28,000 I'd won at blackjack. $2.128 million, if we're being precise. And my wife couldn't give me a 20-minute ride. At 7 a.m. I got up, made coffee, and did something I hadn't done in months. I called in sick to work. Hey Marcus, it's Ethan. Yeah, not feeling great today. Think it might be food poisoning. I'll work from home if anything urgent comes up, but I need to stay close to a bathroom. Marcus, my manager, made sympathetic noises. No worries, man. Feel better. Nothing critical today anyway. I hung up and sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. First things first. I needed to understand what I'd actually won. I pulled up the casino's website, found the progressive jackpot page. Sure enough, the counter had reset to $350,000. Yesterday, it had been at $2.1 million. My win was real. Next, I Googled what to do after winning a jackpot. The results were surprisingly practical. Get a lawyer. Get a financial advisor. Don't tell anyone. Don't make any big purchases for at least 6 months. Don't tell anyone. That part stuck with me. I opened a new browser tab and started researching divorce lawyers in our state. Not because I wanted a divorce, not yet, anyway, but because I needed to understand what would happen if Rachel found out about the money and things went south. Community property state. Anything earned during the marriage was split 50-50, which meant if I told Rachel right now, she'd be entitled to half. $1.064 million. For refusing to give me a ride to a mechanic. I closed the laptop and poured myself another coffee. My phone buzzed. Text from Rachel. Rachel, did you figure out your truck situation? I stared at the message. Not, how are you feeling? Not, sorry about last night. Just checking if I'd solved the problem she'd refused to help with. Me. Yeah. Took an Uber. Rachel. Good. Don't forget we have dinner with the Hendersons on Friday. Wear something nice. The Hendersons. Brad and Melissa. Brad was a partner at Rachel's firm. Melissa did something in pharmaceutical sales. They had a house in the suburbs with a 3-car garage and took annual trips to Tuscany. Rachel loved having dinner with them. She'd spend the entire drive over prepping me. Don't talk about work. Don't mention the casino. Try to seem more ambitious. Brad's going to ask about your career plans. Every dinner with the Hendersons felt like a performance review. I was failing. Me. About Friday. Rachel. What about it? Me. I was thinking maybe we could skip it. Just have a quiet night in. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Rachel, are you serious right now? Me. I'm just tired. It's been a long week. Rachel. It's Wednesday. Me. Exactly. Rachel. Ethan, I've been planning this dinner for 3 weeks. Brad specifically asked us to come. This is important for my career. Me. So ask someone else. Rachel. Ask someone else? What does that even mean? You're my husband. You're supposed to show up to these things. Me. Like you showed up for me yesterday when I needed a ride? The typing indicator appeared immediately. Rachel. Seriously? You're going to hold that over me? I had work. You had options. Stop being petty. I set the phone down and walked away from it. Petty. That's what she thought this was. Pettiness. Not 10 years of being treated like an accessory. Not a decade of being introduced as my husband, he's in IT, with a tone that suggested she was apologizing for my existence. Just pettiness. The phone buzzed again. Rachel. We're going to dinner on Friday. End of discussion. Be ready by 6. I picked up the phone, typed out a response, then deleted it. Instead, I opened my banking app. My regular checking account, 2,140 svenmas. My savings account, 203. Our joint account, 4,556. And somewhere in the casino's accounting department, a check for $2,128,500 was being processed. I had an idea. A terrible, beautiful, absolutely stupid idea. I was going to go to dinner with the Hendersons, but not as the deadweight IT guy Rachel had to apologize for, as someone else entirely. I spent the next 2 days setting things up. First, I went to the bank and opened a new personal account. Not at our usual bank. A different one, across town, where nobody knew us. When the teller asked what the account was for, I said, investment funds. Not a lie, just not the full truth. I set up online banking, ordered a debit card, made sure nothing was linked to Rachel. Then I went to the casino to collect my winnings. The process took 3 hours. More paperwork. More signatures. A meeting with someone from their legal department who explained the tax implications in a monotone that suggested he'd given this speech 1,000 times. You'll owe approximately 37% in federal and state taxes. That's roughly $787,545. We can withhold that now, or you can pay it when you file. Withhold it, I said. He nodded, made notes. That leaves you with a net of $1,349.55. $1.34 million. After taxes. After everything. Still more money than I'd ever imagined having. They cut the check right there. I deposited it into my new account using the mobile app before I even left the parking lot. The deposit showed as pending, but the notification was real. $1,349.55 would be available in 2 business days. I sat in my truck in the casino parking lot and laughed. Not a happy laugh. Not a relieved laugh. A slightly unhinged laugh that probably worried the couple walking past my window. I had over $1 million in a secret bank account. My wife thought I was broke. And in 2 days, I was going to dinner with people who thought I was a failure. The universe had a weird sense of humor. Friday came faster than I expected. Rachel spent all day sending me reminder texts. Rachel, don't forget dinner. 6 p.m. Rachel, wear the blue shirt. The button-up, not the polo. Rachel, Brad mentioned they just got back from Napa. Act interested. Rachel, and please, don't bring up anything embarrassing. At 5:30 I got dressed. Blue button-up shirt, as instructed. Dark jeans. My good shoes. The ones I wore to weddings and funerals. I checked my phone. The deposit had cleared that morning. Balance. $1,349.55. I stared at that number for a solid minute. Then I opened my wallet and looked at the second check. The one for $28,500 from my blackjack winnings. I'd kept it as a backup, a safety net, or maybe as evidence. I went downstairs. Rachel was in the living room, checking her makeup in the mirror by the door. She looked good. She always looked good. That had never been the problem. The problem was that looking good was all she cared about anymore. Ready? She asked without turning around. Almost. Can I talk to you about something first? Ethan, we're going to be late. It'll take 2 minutes. She sighed, turned around. What? I've been thinking about us, about where we are. Her expression shifted to something between annoyance and concern. Can we do this literally any other time? When? You're always at work or too tired or planning the next thing. When do we actually talk? We talk all the time. No, you talk. You tell me what to do, what to wear, how to act. But we don't talk. She crossed her arms. What do you want me to say, Ethan? That I'm sorry I have a demanding career? That I'm sorry I can't spend every evening analyzing our relationship? I want you to care. About me. About us. I do care. Then why did you call me dead weight? She blinked. What? Last month. During that fight about vacation. You said I was dead weight. That you were carrying us financially and emotionally. I didn't. She stopped. I was angry. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? She looked away. I don't know. I was stressed. Work was insane. I said something I shouldn't have. But you meant it. Ethan, you did. You think I'm dead weight. You think I'm holding you back. She didn't deny it. Just stood there, arms crossed, looking at her watch. We're going to be late, she said finally. Right. Can't keep the Hendersons waiting. I grabbed my jacket and walked past her to the garage. She followed, heels clicking on the tile. We drove in silence. Rachel checked her phone the entire time. Didn't look at me once. At a red light, she said, You need to get over whatever this is by the time we get there. I can't have you being weird all night. I'll be fine. Will you? Because you've been acting strange all week. Maybe I'm tired of pretending. Pretending what? That everything's fine, that we're fine. The light turned green. She accelerated harder than necessary, We are fine. Every marriage has rough patches. We just need to get through this. Get through what? Me being a disappointment? I never said you were a disappointment. You didn't have to. We pulled into the Hendersons' driveway. Big house, landscaped yard, 2 luxury SUVs parked in front. Rachel turned off the car and looked at me. Listen, I need you to be normal tonight. Can you do that for me? Normal. That's all she wanted. For me to be normal. To be the forgettable IT guy who nodded along while Brad talked about his boat and Melissa showed pictures from Napa. Sure, I said. I can be normal. She exhaled, relieved. Thank you. We got out of the car. Brad opened the door before we even knocked. Big smile, firm handshake, the kind of guy who probably practiced his greeting in the mirror. Rachel, Ethan, come in, come in. Melissa appeared behind him. Perfectly styled hair, wine glass already in hand. So good to see you both. We did the greeting dance. Shoes off, coats taken, compliments exchanged about the house, the decor, the new backsplash in the kitchen. Rachel was in her element, smiling, laughing, asking about Napa. I stood there watching her perform. And I thought about the number in my bank account. Won $349.55. Dead weight doesn't weigh much when it's made of money. We sat down for dinner at a table that probably cost more than my truck. Brad poured wine. Expensive stuff. The kind where you're supposed to smell it first and make appreciative noises. So, Ethan, Brad said, settling into his chair, Rachel tells me you're in IT. How's that going? Here we go. It's going well, I said. Still at the same company? Yeah, 7 years now. 7 years? Wow, that's commitment. He said it like commitment was a disease. Ever think about moving up? Management? Something with more upward mobility? Rachel jumped in. Ethan's very comfortable where he is. He likes the stability. Translation. He's not ambitious enough to do anything better. Stability's important, Melissa said, clearly trying to help. Not everyone needs to be climbing the ladder. Translation. Some people are just meant to stay at the bottom. I took a sip of wine. Actually, I've been thinking about making some changes. Rachel's head snapped toward me. You have? Yeah, exploring some options. What kind of options? Brad leaned forward, interested now. Investment opportunities, mostly. Brad laughed. Investments? Good for you, man. Takes money to make money, though, right? You got a nest egg saved up? Something like that. Rachel was staring at me. I could feel it. What kind of investments? Brad pressed. Stocks? Real estate? Crypto? Little bit of everything. Nice, nice. I dabble in some real estate myself. Just picked up a rental property in Scottsdale. Great market right now. How much did that run you? I asked. $400,000, but it'll appreciate. Already got tenants lined up. $400,000, less than a third of what was sitting in my account. That's great, I said. Must be nice to have that kind of capital to work with. Well, you know how it is. You build it over time. Save smart, invest smarter. He raised his glass. To financial freedom. We all raised our glasses. Rachel was still staring at me. Melissa brought out the main course. Some kind of braised short rib situation with vegetables I couldn't identify. The conversation moved to Napa. Melissa showed pictures on her phone. Vineyards, fancy dinners, hotel rooms with views. You two should go, she said to Rachel. It's so romantic. We'd love to, Rachel said quickly. Maybe next year. Oh, you should do it sooner. Life's short, you know. It's just a matter of timing and budget. Melissa nodded sympathetically. Right, right. Well, whenever you can swing it. Budget. The word hung in the air. I set down my fork. Actually, I said, we could probably swing it now. Rachel's eyes went wide. Ethan, I mean, if you wanted to, we could book something next month. We can't just, why not? Like Melissa said, life's short. Brad laughed. That's the spirit. Sometimes you just gotta pull the trigger, you know? Rachel's smile was frozen in place. We'll talk about it later. Or we could talk about it now. When works for you? October? Ethan. The way she said my name, like a warning. I smiled, just thinking out loud. The rest of dinner was painful. Rachel barely spoke to me. Every time I said something, she'd find a way to redirect the conversation. By dessert, I could see her mentally calculating how quickly we could leave. Brad and Melissa walked us to the door around 10 p.m. More handshakes, more promises to do this again soon. As soon as we got in the car, Rachel exploded. What the hell was that? What was what? The whole dinner. The investments talk, the Napa trip, all of it. What are you doing? Having a conversation. You were showing off, acting like we have money we don't have. Maybe we do. She stared at me. What does that mean? I pulled out of the driveway, didn't answer. Ethan, what does that mean? It means maybe you don't know everything about our financial situation. We have a joint account. I see every transaction. There's nothing there. Maybe I have another account. She laughed. Not a real laugh. A sharp, angry laugh. Another account? With what money? Your paycheck goes into our joint account. I would know if you were hiding money. Would you? Are you seriously telling me you have a secret account? I drove in silence. Ethan, answer me. You really want to know? Yes. Fine. I pulled into a gas station, put the car in park. I pulled out my phone, opened the banking app, pulled up the balance. $1,349.55. I turned the screen toward her. She stared at it. Blinked. Stared again. This is fake. It's not. This is photoshopped or something. You're trying to? I won the lottery. Well, not the lottery. Casino. Progressive jackpot. Tuesday night. Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. You're lying. I'm not. $2 million? $1.34 million. After taxes. She grabbed my phone, zoomed in on the screen, checked the account name, the bank. This is real. Yes. When were you going to tell me? I took my phone back. I wasn't sure I was. What does that mean? It means I wanted to see something first. See what? If you'd help me. If you'd actually be there for me when I needed something. Understanding dawned on her face. The ride. To the mechanic. Yeah. That's what this was about? You were testing me? I won over $2 million and the first thing I did was ask my wife for a simple favor. You said no. You called me petty for even asking. Because I didn't know. Exactly. You didn't know I had money? So you treated me like dead weight. She sat back in her seat, processing. So what now? She asked quietly. I put the car in drive. Now? Now I'm going to figure out what I want to do with my life, and you're going to figure out if you want to be part of it. We drove home in silence. And for the first time in 10 years, I felt like I was in the driver's seat. The weekend was hell. Not the screaming kind. Not the throwing things kind. The cold kind. The kind where two people live in the same house but exist in completely different realities. Rachel spent Saturday locked in the bedroom, alternating between crying and making phone calls I couldn't hear through the door. I spent it on the couch, laptop open, researching what my life could look like with $1.3 million and no wife. Sunday morning, she finally came downstairs. Hair pulled back. No makeup. Sweatpants. The Rachel I hadn't seen in years. The one who used to eat cereal in bed and laugh at stupid videos. She sat across from me at the kitchen table. I've been thinking, she said. Okay. This is a lot of money. It is. Life-changing money. I waited. We could do a lot with it. Pay off the house, travel. Maybe I could finally leave that firm and start my own practice. We could actually build something together. There it was. The pivot. 24 hours ago, I was dead weight. Now I was a partner. That's your plan? I asked. Pretend the last 10 years didn't happen because suddenly I'm worth something? That's not fair. Isn't it? You refused to give me a ride, called me petty, told me to Uber. But now that you know I have money, suddenly we're a team. She looked down at her hands. I know I haven't been the best wife. That's an understatement. But we made vows, Ethan. For better or worse. This is the better part. This is where we get to start over. Start over. Like the last decade was just a rough draft we could crumple up and throw away. What about the dead weight comment? I asked. She flinched. I was angry. I said things I didn't mean. You meant it. You've meant it for years. Every time you introduced me to your colleagues, every time you corrected me at dinner parties, every time you looked at me like I was a disappointment, you were stuck with. Ethan, I won $2.1 million and my first thought was to test you, to see if you'd help me when you thought I had nothing. And you failed. Spectacularly. Tears started running down her face. Real ones this time, I think. So what are you saying? You want a divorce? I hadn't said it out loud yet, hadn't let the word form in my mouth. But sitting there, watching her cry, I realized something. I didn't love her anymore. Maybe I hadn't for years. Maybe I'd just been too comfortable, too scared, too used to being told I wasn't good enough to believe I deserved better. I don't know, I said. But I know I can't keep living like this. Like I'm lucky you stayed with me. Like I should be grateful you tolerate my existence. You did. Every single day. She wiped her eyes. Can we go to counseling? Work on this? You want to work on it now that there's money involved. That's not why. Rachel, be honest. If I hadn't won anything, if I was still just the IT guy making $60,000 a year, would we be having this conversation? Or would you have kept treating me like furniture until you found someone better? She didn't answer, because we both knew the truth. My phone buzzed. Text from my brother, Jake. We hadn't talked in months. Jake. Dude, did you actually win the lottery? Mom said something, but I thought she was confused. I stared at the message. Who told your mom? I asked Rachel. She looked guilty. I might have called her yesterday. I was upset. I needed to talk to someone. You told my mother I won money before we even discussed what we're doing? I didn't think. You never do. My phone buzzed again. And again. Text after text. Mom. Honey, call me. Is this true? Jake. Seriously, bro. Call me back, Dad. Your mother is having a fit. What's going on? Aunt Linda. Congratulations. So happy for you both. Both. Like Rachel had anything to do with it. I stood up. I'm going out. Where? Away from here. Ethan, we need to talk about this. No. You need to figure out who told who because apparently my business is everyone's business now. I need to figure out if I want to stay married to someone who sees me as a lottery ticket. I grabbed my keys and walked out. Behind me, I heard her start crying again. I didn't turn around. I drove to the casino, sat in the parking lot where I'd deposited that check. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Family. Friends I hadn't talked to in years. People crawling out of the woodwork now that I had something they wanted. I turned off my phone, sat there in silence, and made a decision. I wasn't going back to that house. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. I pulled out of the parking lot and drove to a hotel. Nothing fancy. Just a Holiday Inn with clean sheets and Wi-Fi. At the front desk, the clerk asked, "How many nights?" "I don't know yet," I said. She smiled. "We'll start with one." I checked in, went up to my room, sat on the bed that smelled like industrial detergent and other people's problems. And for the first time since I'd won that money, I felt something like peace. My phone was still off. Rachel didn't know where I was. Nobody could ask me for anything. I was alone. And it felt amazing. I stayed at that Holiday Inn for 3 days. On day 4, I drove home to collect my things. Rachel's car was in the driveway. Of course. She was sitting on the couch when I walked in, laptop open, looking like she hadn't slept in days. "Ethan," she jumped up. "Where have you been? I've been calling." "I know. Your family's been calling me. Everyone's asking questions. Tell them the truth. I won money and left." Her arms crossed defensively. "You can't just disappear. It's our money. We're married. Community property." There it was. "I talked to a lawyer," I said. Her face went pale. "What?" Tuesday. He said if I file first and if I can prove the marriage was already failing, I can protect most of the winnings. Ethan, you don't need a lawyer. We can work this out. We can't. And you know it. I walked past her toward the stairs. She followed. After 10 years, you're just walking away? No, Rachel. You walked away years ago. I'm just finally noticing. I grabbed my suitcase from the closet and started packing. She stood in the doorway, crying. I'll give you half. Whatever you want. Just don't leave. I stopped. You'll give me my money? Our money. The court will say, maybe. But in the meantime, I get to live without being reminded daily that I'm not enough. I love you. No. You love what I represent now. Big difference. I zipped the suitcase, grabbed my laptop bag. She grabbed my arm. Please, we can go to therapy. We can fix this. I pulled away gently. You know what's funny? If you'd just given me that ride, 20 minutes, none of this would be happening. That's what this is about? A stupid ride? No, it's been about 10 years of being invisible. The ride was just proof. Downstairs, she followed me to the door, practically running. Ethan, stop. I stopped, turned around. She stood there, mascara running, looking desperate and small. I need you to understand something, I said. I didn't win this money to hurt you, but your reaction showed me everything. What do you want me to say? Nothing. There's nothing left. Wait. She ran to grab her laptop. Look, I've been planning our future. What we could do. She showed me a spreadsheet. Color-coded. Budget projections. Dreams built on money she hadn't earned. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, turned the screen toward her. $228,500 deposited. Her eyes went wide. That's more than you said. That's before taxes. I have about 1.34 million now. So I pulled out the check from my blackjack winnings. The $28,500 one, handed it to her. This is from before the jackpot, before I tested you. My lawyer says it proves the marriage was already over. She stared at the check. At the date. You planned this. No, I hoped you'd pass. You didn't. I grabbed my laptop from the counter, pulled up the bank account one final time. $1,349.55. Let her see the full amount. You called me dead weight, I said quietly. Said I was holding you back. Ethan, well, guess what? Dead weight just got lighter by 120 pounds. She looked confused. What? You. I'm talking about you. I picked up my suitcase and walked out. Behind me, she collapsed, sobbing. I didn't turn around. Got in my truck, started the engine, drove away. My phone rang. Rachel. Declined. Again. Declined. The third time I blocked her. Then called my lawyer. It's Ethan. I'm ready to file. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. She got the house and $40,000. I got the rest and my freedom. Worth it. I was sitting in a coffee shop in a new city when my phone buzzed. Jake. Mom's asking about Thanksgiving. You coming? Me. Maybe Christmas. Jake. Fair. Proud of you, man. Takes guts. I smiled. Start over. Like I'd lost something. But I hadn't lost anything. I'd figured out what I was worth. And it wasn't a number in a bank account. It was knowing when to walk away from people who only valued you for what you could give them. I finished my coffee and started looking at houses online. Not big ones. Not impressive ones. Just something that felt like mine. Because for the first time in 10 years, I wasn't dead weight. I was free. And that was worth more than $2 million.